If we were to seek the meaning of the dense fog that covered Europe towards the end of the first quarter of the 5th century AD, we would encounter the silhouette of a Roman Empire struggling for survival against the destructive waves of Germanic tribes, leaving behind its glorious days. This silhouette appears more faded to us than ever. Emperors manipulated by barbarians, the smell of smoke rising from ruined cities, and rivers stained red by the blood of years of massacres are the most prominent features of this silhouette. Indeed, over the past 50 years, the empire has been reshaped by fire and ashes under the swords of barbarian warriors. Firstly, in 378, Emperor Valens was defeated and killed in Edirne, setting the stage for a series of disasters. The lands stretching from the Balkans to Italy, once kept beyond the Rhine and Danube rivers for centuries, collapsed under the relentless force of the human flood led by merciless Gothic warriors. Large territories from the Danube to North Africa were invaded by the Alans, Vandals, and Suevists. In 409, the empire had to withdraw from Britain to protect continental Europe. A year later, the Goths captured Rome and looted it for 3 days. The fall of the sacred city would soon give rise to the spreading of fear in people's hearts. Horror and anxiety became palpable throughout the empire. Cities and towns began to be abandoned. A spark ignited in the east with the movement of the Huns, turning into a devastating spiral of fire that engulfed the whole of Europe. Church chronicles and personal diaries overflowed with prayers longing for the end of these disasters that turned Europe into ashes. However, the owners of these lines were unaware that what had happened so far was just the beginning. Soon, whispers of an obscure legend began to reach people's ears. The terrifying stories being told breathed life into the seeds of a new fear. The church referred to it as the whip of God. Soon, it became popular among the Romans. The Huns, as an expression of their compassion, named him Attila, meaning little father in their language. This name would soon become an indispensable motif in the horror stories of the time, because when the whip of God was cast upon Europe, all the disasters experienced so far would be a mere longing for a pleasant mother. Attila was the son of Hunnic, a member of the Tulu clan. His father died when he was still a child, and he and his brother Bleda were raised by their uncle Rua. The sources of the time are quite silent about his childhood and youth. Therefore, Attila's activities during this period are hidden behind an uncertain darkness. However, considering that he came from the important Tulu clan, it is not an exaggeration to think that he was raised as the future ruler. Sources from the period indicate that he joined the Hun War Council at a young age. In addition, the way Attila was raised was quite different from the barbarian image in the minds of the Romans. What is written about Attila shows that he was successful not only in barbarism, but also in diplomacy. He spoke both Latin and Gothic fluently and eloquently. His skills with bow and sword were high, to the extent that many Western sources from this period claimed that he carried Mars, the god of war's sword. These legendary tales would soon shape an extraordinary myth around Attila. This myth, molded with fear and terror, began to take root in the minds and hearts of all Europeans in a short time. Attila became a figure akin to a supernatural Volf with a hairy face, who killed his brother for the sake of his ambitions, ruthlessly cooked and ate his own sons, and was dreaded in the age of brute force and anger. The process that would turn Attila from an ordinary member of the dynasty into the ruler of all Huns begins with the sudden death of his uncle. Shortly thereafter, peace talks are initiated with Eastern Rome. Attila takes the initiative and goes himself. What will happen here is crucial for his future. At that time, the Huns were ruled by his uncles, and his brother was another partner in the throne. Regardless, Attila must succeed in these negotiations at all costs, as Eastern Rome is ruled by his uncle. When the Roman envoy arrives, Attila is not pleased with the sight he encounters. Attila meets him and the accompanying Roman delegation on horseback, a gesture of humiliation. However, the envoy knows that he must continue the negotiations. The Eastern Roman Emperor wants peace to be achieved at all costs. Whether Attila knows this or not is not certain. However, his insistence on the negotiation terms being accepted in favor of the Huns is quite clear. During the negotiations, he says, "Either you accept or we go to war." The Eastern Roman delegation is forced to accept all conditions. Thus, Attila gets what he wants. When he returns, Attila and his brother begin to rule the Hun state as joint rulers. However, their relationship is quite uncertain in the sources of the time. Some sources claim that Attila killed his brother, while others say that his brother died of natural causes. With these allegations, Attila had everyone terrified. This terror was first felt in the eastern part of the empire. The First and Second Balkan campaigns deeply shook the Eastern Roman Empire's dominance in the Balkans. Cities were covered in black smoke. The Huns were advancing towards Constantinople. In 447, under the leadership of Attila, the Huns broke the last resistance in Gallipoli. This was the end of everything for the Eastern Roman Empire. Attila and Constantinople were only a few kilometers apart. The smell of blood and smoke in the air was clearly audible. The dreaded nightmare of Eastern Rome was about to suffocate the city. However, just as it was about to capture the city, peace negotiations were concluded positively. Peace came to Eastern Rome for a while. However, this peace would cost Eastern Rome dearly. For years, they paid enormous sums to Attila. In 450, Attila received a letter from the capital of Western Rome. The letter came from the emperor's sister and included an engagement ring. It was a marriage proposal. The emperor was furious when he learned about it. He did not want this. Attila demanded the princess and territories from Rome. Otherwise, he threatened to bring his army to Rome. Thus, he unleashed chaos in Europe. Some sources claim that his army exceeded 500,000. He advanced into the heart of Europe, reaching as far as Belgium. The civilization that Rome had built for centuries disappeared in a few months. Attila was advancing towards Paris. However, he was met by Flavius, one of the last great commanders of Rome, and the Gothic king. Tens of thousands on both sides were killed. Attila was stopped. A year later, he turned towards Europe again. He captured many cities. He burned and destroyed. Rome sent Pope as an envoy. Negotiations ended as Rome wanted. Attila withdrew. Some sources claim that there was a plague in the army. They say Attila withdrew because of this. Perhaps, while withdrawing, he was thinking of coming back later. When he returned to his country, he got married. He died on the wedding night. Some sources claim he was poisoned, while others say he died from excessive alcohol consumption. Europe breathed a sigh of relief. The empire established by Attila was divided among his sons. They all worked to expand their own territories. However, they were completely fragmented. The horror story of Europe continued to live on for centuries.